Real Trees Midwest Whitetail is brought to you by RTP Outdoors, Redneck Blinds, Hoyman Tree Saws, Cuddyback, Ozonics, Nikon, Easton Arrows, America's Best Bowstrings, Viking Solutions, Spot Hog Releases, Cabela's, Hoyt, Frigid Forage, Fuse, Grizzly Coolers, Drake Non-Typical, Wasp Archery, and Real Tree Edge. Hunt with an edge.
So we're getting into the dog days of summer. I'm taking care of some projects, some things I wanted to go over. This is actually the autumn quick plot we looked at about 40 days ago. This is what it looks like now. We're going to relate to the people who have some poor quality soil. This might be guys in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, maybe who are working with big timbered areas and have some really poor quality soil they're trying to build. So we're going to go over this field. We're going to do a couple different things. We're going to look at how much organic matter the autumn quick plots instantly created. We're going to mow this down, check out what we've got underneath. We've got some legumes in some spots, some vetch, some alfalfa and clover, and then this is really going to improve this soil and bring a lot of organic matter into the soil. We're also going to talk about how we're doing all these projects, how I do them on my farm. Sometimes things aren't timed ideally for a lot of reasons, life, rain, all these different things, and I always just try and keep the pressure off my farm, and I have certain routes that I stay on my farm and really don't deviate from very often. Check my cameras when I'm doing my work back here. So we're just going to go over several things I do and a lot of folks do to keep the pressure down on their farm so the bucks aren't disturbed all year long. So we've got some Austrian winter peas in here. We've got some vetch and we've got some different clovers in here. As we get up the ridge a little further, the clovers came in a lot thicker. So you can see these are climbing and they're fixing nitrogen as well. So this mix is fantastic for somebody who's working the soil for the first time. Like if you cleared a wood lot or a little patch in the woods and you're trying to build up the soil, if you got a lot of sand, rocks, heavy clay, really poor quality soil, this is where I'd start with a farm, is start building it up with a lot of things like this, which are going to build organic matter and put a lot of nutrients in the soil. So this would be probably the first thing I'd be planting is some cereal grains. The autumn quick plot is fantastic for getting a small plot going on a new farm. So I'm going to mow some of this fairly high. I had some leftover soybeans from planting and I just ran it through here. And the soybeans are actually doing really well. Just drilled right into here. So I'm going to mow some of this fairly high and just release it. And then some of it I'll mow lower where there's more clover to free that up. And then some of it I'm just for fun, I'm just going to leave it standing. It is really good fawning cover. So if there's any fawns in here, or there's going to be any fawns in here, I'll have a nice big area for them. Might create a little bit of a mess later, but I'll do a variety of things out here. This is kind of my fun plot where I'm trying to build the soil back up and make it productive where it definitely was not before. So pressure is a big part of deer. There's a lot of different things, a lot of different scenarios people have to work with, whether it's public, whether it's a small piece of private or big, anything in between. Overpressure in the deer can apply to everybody. I'll give you one example here on my farm. There's a trail I use right over here. I access the farm only when I need to on the same trail every single time. And if you look out there, there's where most of the deer are. They're out in the timber and out in my thicker CRP out there. And I might come back here and do some chores, take care of some crop chores. We're gonna mow some clover today. I'm gonna stay on this trail every time I come back here though. And actually I've got some trail cameras along this trail that I'll pick up, and a lot of times I can get to them from the tractor. So that's my example. Where I would just recommend it with others is to do things with consistency, whether it's the same piece of machinery taking the same route, and I would find areas that I don't go into. And even if you were going into public land and you had your favorite spot, I wouldn't be going in there all summer, all fall. I would leave it alone as much as possible and do things with consistency. So out here I have the attitude that I really like the deer. The deer don't like me, unfortunately. So I leave them alone. And the does don't seem to bother as much, but a mature buck's kind of a different animal in my eyes. And even if it's a 2 or a 3-year-old buck, I just want to leave them be. I just want to have them make sure they have their sanctuaries and disturb them as least as possible. I love being on my ground, but I want to do things with consistency, use the same areas, and interfere with the deer's lives as little as I possibly can. So I came out here to find the weediest clover I could find that's established. What I guess I'd call neglected clover. This is established clover, and I want to just go over a few things to clean it up, a few options you have. So you can see it needs to be mowed. It's pretty mature. So one reason to mow would be to have tender growth. If it's starting to flower out, it quits producing nitrogen. I don't mind clover flowering out and reseeding itself. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll let that happen once in a while. But this has a lot of weeds in it. So your grasses, clethodim and crop oil, have to have crop oil with it. It's cheap. It takes care of only the grass. That's one option for grasses. For your broadleaves, I prefer mowing just because I'm not as fussy, but you can use 2,4-D-B or Butarac. So that is another option. You cannot mix them together. You'd have to spray them separately. I'll probably just hit this with clethodim and crop oil and probably just mow the broadleaves so I get rid of these grasses. Your third option would be to hit it with a lighter dose of Roundup. It might not be the best option, but established clover is pretty resilient and it'll bounce back. Like a half a quart per acre of Roundup will take care of a lot of these weeds. Some people can go heavier. It's definitely hard to kill clover. So you got some tools in your arsenal. But if this was pure clover and there was no weeds, I'd still want to mow it to keep the growth tender for the deer and keep it fixing nitrogen. So maybe the last time I'd mow this would be 2 or 3 weeks before hunting season, before it starts getting cold. So it does grow back and it's nice tender growth. One important tip when it starts to be about turkey season and things warm up, permethrin or permethrin, whatever you want to call it, will keep ticks, chiggers, and mosquitoes off you. And one thing I've done to really save a lot of money is I'll just buy it in concentrate. This is 36% concentrate, and then I'll dilute it down to 0.5%, and then I treat all my clothes with that. The main one we want to keep off us is the ticks for the Lyme disease and the Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which is really serious. So treat all your clothes with permethrin, and I'll show you how to do that. It's really easy. You can actually let them dry out, fold them up, and store them, and you will not have a tick on you come this summer and spring working in the woods. One reason I go with this method over this is just simply cost. I can run all my clothes for the whole summer for about 20 bucks, where this is fairly expensive. It's awesome stuff. It's all pre-mixed, but it's probably going to cost me 10 times as much money. So I'm doing it on the budget. This will last me all year, and it actually can go through the wash cycle. It says 6 times, and I probably retreat it more than that, but it's really effective stuff, and this is the way to save a lot of money. So keep up with your projects and keep in mind how it's impacting the deer, and hopefully you have a fantastic hunting fall coming up. So it was a really productive day on the farm. Got some little chores done, didn't mess with the deer, kept the ticks off. We're building some soil. And if everything comes together, from Jared's notes, if I become as good of a hunter as him I might have a chance at a big buck. He is probably the best hunter that I know. All right. He's been blessed with good looks, okay. Before we know it, fall will be here, and all these hot, tough days during summer will all be worth it. All the hard work will come together, and hopefully you have some great hunting this fall. Thanks for watching Midwest Whitetail.
It's getting towards the latter part of May here, and Mike and I are a little bit behind on some of these projects on the farm. But today Josh and I came out and we're going to try to get some things sprayed for two things. One, to plant some soybeans, and then two, to plant some switchgrass, some native switchgrass, to create a little more cover. So we're spraying. I'm going to start with this soybean, what will be a soybean plot. It's about 2.5 acres. You know, Mike and I have spent a lot of time mapping out where we want to put these things. It's going to be a learning experience. You know, we have regulations. We can only plant so much into food plots with the WRP regulations, and then also because it's river bottom ground, there's a lot of wet areas. So we're trying not to end up wasting too much money planting too much seed that is just going to get flooded out or something like that. So I'll spend a lot of time walking around today, making sure that I think it's dry enough to do either switchgrass or beans, and just keep mapping it out as I go today. But hopefully the spraying goes well and we can knock this project out so that way we can drill later this week. Well, probably 7-8 hours later, Josh and I are finally finished with our spraying. It might have looked easy in the video, but we are sunburnt and dead tired. But we're gonna put in the boat and go across the river and swap out cards on the cameras that I have over there, and freshen up batteries, all that. These cameras have been sitting there since the fall, so I'm anxious to see if there's anything good on them. And Josh and I are making trip number 2 down the river, so as hot as it is, like 90 degrees, I kind of want to just jump in this river and swim across, but we'll see if we can get over there and get back and get out here. It's been a long day.
It's the hottest day of the year.
There's a fish right there.
What?
Fish just surfaced right there.
Oh yeah, catfish. Why aren't we fishing?
Well, the camera's kind of crooked and it's covered in ants and spiders, but it's still taking pictures, which is pretty awesome. It was probably November when we put it out, and we got some of the pictures via Cuddy Link, but when we pulled the home camera, this had nothing to send to, so it's been taking pictures on its own for a number of months. You know, it's almost June now. So I'm excited to see what's on this card. I'll probably leave the camera here in the same spot, just freshen up the batteries. Here's the other camera that we had across the river. Just changed the batteries out. and hooked it back up to a cutty link so it'll send pictures across the river. And one thing, this obviously worked in the fall, but it's a lot different now with all the leaves on the trees and all the undergrowth. So check the level, and it's almost 70. So I think it's connecting probably to a camera that's across the river and then sending it to the home camera, kind of daisy chaining. But I was happy to see that high of a level this time of year. Mosquitoes are terrible down in here. It feels like it's August. So we got these 2 cameras freshened up, ready to go. Now we won't have to make another trip across the river for a while. So we're all set. We're gonna get back across and get in the boat. Well, it's a good project to get done. We got, I think, pretty much everything that we wanted to get sprayed done. They were just, because of, like I was mentioning earlier, the wet spots, there's a lot of little 1 and 2 acre spots. There wasn't any big patches that we're going to try to put into switchgrass or food plot. Just not enough high ground on this farm to do anything big. So a lot of little 1 and 2 acre patches. Unfortunately, it looks like there's a big thunderhead rolling in. There was a 0% chance of rain today, which is why we picked today to spray. But with these 90 degrees and humidity, you never know what's going to pop up. So hopefully that doesn't hurt us too bad. Hopefully it just blows right over. But like I said, good project to get done. Next on the list is hopefully we get a good kill out of this and can get back here next week and drill some soybeans as well as some native switchgrass.
I'm back at the poor man plot that I started about 3 weeks ago. Today my task is to burn off all the residue, and as I mentioned when I sprayed it, a lot of times you have to burn it off in order for the seed to get down to the dirt, because you want to have good contact between your seed and the soil so that when it germinates, the little root that it puts out will find its way into the dirt and turn into a plant. So normally we'd be putting fertilizer down along with the seed. This spot, last time we tested it, had really good fertility, so I'm not going to put fertilizer down now. I'm going to get the seed started and then put some fertilizer in during the middle of the summer. It's late May now and we need a couple of rains. It's just a little bit late for one of these poor man plots, but just kind of the way the timing worked out this year with the really cold spring, and then all of a sudden it just turned hot and dry on us. But typically you'd like to have these done by about the end of April to the first part of May. That way you catch a couple of rains and you give the small clover plants a chance to really kick in and get growing. This year I'm not going to put the pure trophy clover in. Generally I use frigid forage pure trophy clover in these poor man plots, but I'm going to put in their Plow Down Clover. And this is a different type of blend. It's some clovers that grow fast and that grow big. And the purpose of the Plow Down Clover really isn't so much to feed the deer, although it will do that. It's more to create a lot of green material that you can till under when you come back again in the late summer and plant big and beastie. So a Plow Down plot, food plot, is one that you could leave it if it looks good, mow it, clean it up, make it look nice, and leave it for the deer, or you could till it under and use the nitrogen value that comes from all that green matter that you put into the soil to help the big and beastie to grow that you plant in during the late summer. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. I'm going to use this as my Plow Down plot for 2018. So I'll be able to demonstrate that later in the summer when we come back again for the main show after the summer break. I can talk a bit more about making these Plow Down plots and putting the big and beastie in. So right now I'm going to go in, I'm going to burn this off. And I did see that there was some green stuff left in there, which is kind of typical when you spray these things the first time. There's always a few things that don't die. So I brought some Roundup with, and after I burn it, I'm going to spray anything that's left green, and then I'm going to go ahead and spread my seed and hope for the rains to come and cause the seed to germinate. This bag of the Plow Down Clover plants an acre, and that's about at the most 1/4 of an acre, probably a little bit less than that. So I'm just going to put about 1/4 of this bag in there. The best way to do it is just to weigh it out. This is 8.5 pounds. So if I put 1 3/4 to 2 pounds in there, that'd be perfect. But I can estimate it close enough for what I'm doing here today. Nothing like burning a field on a 95-degree day. It was a hot one today, but I got the job done. Now I just need rain, and I should get a nice little plow down clover plot growing here. I'll bring you updates on this, like I said, when we get into the regular season episodes. They start usually about the 3rd week of August every year. We'll bring you up to speed on the rest of the summer action, and then start talking about the bucks that we're going to be hunting this coming fall and where we're going to be hunting them at. Well, I appreciate you joining me this week. We'll see you right back here again next week for the next episode of Midwest Whitetail. And remember to always dream big.